tomorrow if we're not friends yet, but thank you very much for joining me today, and now we are. Every now and then I do a little check-in to test the mobility around my hips. Now, I'm not necessarily recommending this specific test for most people because it's a little bit intense, but I generally have fairly good mobility and flexibility. So what I do every now and then, if I'm making a cup of tea, is I just whack my shin up or across the kitchen countertop. And if I'm feeling nice and loosey-goosey and mobile, then my lower leg will lie flat across the countertop. If I'm super stiff, then if I'm super stiff, then my knee will be floating up in the air somewhere. Anyway, so I did this and I was like, oh God, I'm really stiff at the moment. So I'm going to do a series of pretty gentle, nice little hip stretches and hip openers, and I thought you might like to join me. So just talking about the hip flexors, they're basically a group of muscles. There's muscles, ligaments, tendons, there's fascia, there's all sorts of stuff going on. But when we talk about the hip flexors, we're talking about mostly the iliopsoas, so all the muscles that run along the front. Let me do this so you can see. So we're talking about the muscles that run down the front of the hips here. So when they contract, they shorten the space between your torso and your legs. So either your torso comes forward to meet your legs, or they pull your leg up towards your torso. That's their function. Very useful for things like walking, when they pull your leg through. Tight hips are super duper common, so don't worry, but we're going to sort it out. There's also a school of thought, if you're more in the kind of yoga area, that your hips can store a lot of tension and stress and trauma. So I don't know how you feel about that. I mean, it kind of makes sense to me on a scientific level as well as the kind of spiritual level. But same as your jaw and your shoulders. If you're tense and you're stressed all the time, these are the kind of key areas in your hips that can get tense, and that's the word, isn't it? Just tense. That's all I mean. Don't overcomplicate it there. And it's kind of to do with that cortisol hormone, that stress hormone that induces the fight or flight. It's to do with the idea that these muscles are poised and ready to either clench you into like a fetal position to hide, or to engage the leg to run away. So it makes sense that if you're stressed, there's tension in that area. So it can be said that there's quite a lot of kind of stress and emotion that's caught up in your hips if you have tense hips. So potentially some people find that when they do hip opening stretch type movements, that it can kind of release emotion and you can get a bit emotional. So just heads up in case you're like stretching like but that's kind of more yoga end of stuff. We're kind of keeping it Pilates physical stuff, but just an interesting note I thought I would add in there. Okay, so first of all is the good old lunge. Who doesn't love a lunge? So you can see here that I'm starting from standing, just easing into it very gradually. Don't forget to breathe. So we're going to go straight in for a low lunge, I think. Oh, there I go. Yeah. Okay, so just make sure that you can see my front knee is stacked directly over my ankle, just for knee safety there. You can also take the hands down to the mat for extra support, and play with your breath here. So as you breathe out, release that hip lower to the floor, very gradually, very gently. You can have an experiment with some different variations here. So lifting the arms up, a really gentle little back bend, thinking of lifting up, if that feels good for your body. If the low lunge is a bit intense or you want a variation, you can stay higher. So again, I've gone for those right angles. And just watch that pelvis positioning, okay? So you don't want to be too tilted. You want to think of, oh, there we go, I'm showing you here. So you want to tuck that bum right under, engage the abs, squeeze the glutes, okay? So squeeze that butt and think of pushing that hip forward, and it's going to lengthen and elongate all the way down the front of that hip. It feels delicious. And from there, you can take it further into a low lunge again if you want. And here I am having just a little experiment. I trust you to trust your own body. You can play with some rotations, some little swirly whirls. Trying to create a really nice long line between the back heel, all the way up that leg, all the way up through the spine, through the crown of the head. Nice elongated feeling here. Take it down to the elbows if you're feeling brave. And just another reminder about that breath. Sinking that hip gradually, gently lower. If you're feeling particularly crazy and want an extra stretch down the quadricep, down the thigh, and to test your balance, you can see if you can take hold of your back foot and squeeze it towards the bottom. And then you get an extra stretch all the way down the front of the hip and through that thigh as well. Okay, tuck your labels in, lower yourself down to the floor, very carefully. Now, if you've done any physical exercise class or even PE lesson in your life, you'll know this one. I'm calling it the figure 4 stretch. You're going to thread those magic fingers through the little hole, hold onto the back of your thigh, gently pull the leg towards you. You can use this elbow to give that knee a little crank back as well if that feels good. This one can also be done sitting on a chair or stood up. So there's a few varieties there. Butt rub at the end. So I wasn't sure what to name this one, but I'm going to call it On the Walk, which is from a technique called Graham technique, which is a dance technique. Martha Graham, of course, worked with Joseph Pilates, so it's relevant. A little demo here for you. But anyway, we're not here for that. You want to make sure that we're back in those right angles. This is quite a glutey stretch, so you probably feel this in your butt cheek. That's good, it's all working to the same thing. You can see here that I've extended that back leg and progressed this into a pigeon pose from yoga, which is really getting into that glute and this right hip of mine. A really gentle but lovely way of using this position is to just roll from side to side using those right angles. Oh, well done past me. You can see here that I'm just indicating there to each time you roll over, just think of pushing that hip forward as well. You can even combine the two and you can roll from side to side with a little forward stretch as well. Really nice one that. You see that sticker on my foot? Okay, glute bridge. Sometimes what happens is when the hip flexors at the front get tight, the opposing glute muscles at the back get long and loose. So this is a double whammy. You're going to be elongating those hip flexors at the front and strengthening the glutes underneath. You want to start by really tucking the pelvis under, rolling up bit by bit, lengthen at the top, and then to reverse, think of placing each vertebra down as you go, releasing at the end. One more time, with a bit of speed. Squeeze at the top, lengthen, bit by bit as you come down. One of my faves here. Now, I'll be honest, I really struggled to find a flattering way to film this. So you want to take hold of the soles of the feet, flick your hair out of the way. And then you're thinking of, hey, check out me trying to work out how to point. But you want to think about bringing your knees down to the floor next to you. Maybe not flattering, but it feels delicious. To finish off, we're talking about a nice, gentle butterfly stretch. This is nice to just stay in and breathe. Honestly, use it as a meditation position maybe. You can also do it sitting. Here's me on the old elbow knee trick again. You can use that just to gently push the knees down if that feels good for your body. Option to extend the legs into a little gentle split. I hope that's been useful. Please give us a little comment, a like, a subscribe if it has. Take it easy, listen to your body, go easy, enjoy.